Engage. Welcome back, everybody, to Real Time for the real everyday movie fan. I'm Ryan Murphy,
And I'm James Sheridan.
and today we are giving you our review for episode 2 of Star Trek Picard, season 3, aka Star Trek The Next Generation, season 8. Yeah, so this episode happened, and I think we both have similar feelings about it, which not much happened.
And
Would you
that's
say?
that's going to basically be my problem with this episode is that not much happened. It's like an
Yeah.
hour long episode where we're more or less like one plot point away from where we were at the end of the previous episode, two plot points away from the previous episode, and it's like a bunch of sound and fury meaning nothing, or
Yeah,
however that
I mean,
phrase goes.
I see kind of what they're doing in that they have to end each episode on like a bullet point, on like a chapter heading.
Sure.
So episode 1, it's like, ends with Beverly Crusher's son, and the bad guy shows up. Great ending. Um, Blew my
But
mind.
then we end on he's also my son. Bad guy just still is chasing us. Okay, what happened in between?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I it's funny. My Facebook friend who works on this series was I said that on Facebook. I said, you know, not much happened. He's like, "Are you serious? You have to be kidding!" And he's just really excited for it. I mean, I think he's most excited. He's jubilant. He said he's watched this show 4 times already, all the way through the
geez.
whole series. Um,
And I'm sure a
and
lot of stuff that's happened in this will come to fruition later down the line. The problem is that, and this is my biggest issue with it so far is that like we're promised that this is going to be the return of the next generation cast and all of that. And so far we've had Riker and Picard with a cameo by Worf and a mostly unconscious Crusher. And it's like,
yeah,
when are we getting the cast? Because most of the stuff that's happening, I have zero fucking interest in. The Raffi stuff up until Worf showed up, couldn't give two shits about. They're not really dealing with anything there. She's just kind of like spinning her tires trying to find some way to get information, and she's basically told to stand down. And then this is like we don't move from the same place where the Riker Picard stuff happened at the end of the last episode, and it's just this standoff between the two ships, the three ships eventually, for most of the episode, and people squabbling about what to do.
yeah. And the of course the other thing is that the big reveal we already knew, right? Everyone already knew that. Like, it was like what? No one.
That said, I did love Riker the entire time. Like, tell me you don't see it. Tell
Yes,
me,
I
come
know. You
on.
were
It's like
texting me. You were like, I think Riker's more excited than you are to fight. So,
that cracked me up.
but yeah, it's one of the things I've heard about this episode is that some people are starting to like Shaw now. He comes off as a good captain in this episode. He may be an asshole, it might be a bigot, but he
Yeah,
comes off as kind of a halfway
I
decent captain this time around.
I will say I can't fault him for the decisions he's making in terms of protecting his crew and his ship. The problem I have is that he is flagrantly ignoring the requests of an admiral, a retired
Mhm.
admiral, not an active admiral, but he still holds rank.
Mhm.
And we see that beautifully towards the end of it, where he basically pulls rank,
Yeah.
and Shaw just kind of like sits back in his chair and says, "Fine, this is on you." And
Mhm.
so again, I can't fault him for that stuff, but he could be less of a prick while he's doing this stuff, and it drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Apparently, the actor Todd Stashwick is had worked with Terry Matalas, the showrunner, on his previous show, which was 12 Monkeys. So these guys are old friends. Just a little footnote.
We also had
Um,
another actor from that series show up.
oh really? Who's
Yeah,
that?
the Ferengi is played by, I can't remember his name, but he played Pyro in the X-Men films, in the second and third X-Men films, and he was
Oh
the main
really?
character in the 12 Monkeys series. He was Bruce Willis's character from the film. In the
Okay.
TV series, he was that character,
Okay.
whose name I
James has
don't
seen the
recall.
12 Monkeys series. We found him. We found
I
the one.
haven't seen it.
Uh,
I was watching stuff afterwards to get like little tidbits for
oh, okay.
the
We
review and
still haven't
whatnot.
found the one.
Yeah.
But one thing I wanted to bring up in this episode was I don't know if you caught this. I told you to look for it the second time you watched the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, because you know me, one of my big things is when they played it, they played the theme. So like
Yeah.
when the Flash trailer came out and they played the Danny Elfman Batman theme. Of course, I lost my shit. And but did you notice it when you watched
Da
when Worf
da
came
da
in?
da da
Yeah,
da
it's
da da
Jerry
da da.
Goldsmith's Klingon
Yeah.
theme. Yeah.
I
So
mean,
just
it's become ubiquitously the Klingon theme. They play it all the time when Worf shows
mhm.
up in First Contact, and
Well, that's
um,
because Jerry Goldsmith scored First Contact.
oh, did
Like
he? Okay,
he it it didn't play like so. Jerry Goldsmith scored the motion picture and was the first thing
yeah.
outside the main theme to play in the motion picture because that movie starts out with the Klingon ships, and then they didn't show up again until he came back for five, the Final Frontier, and then it didn't really show up again until he came back for First Contact.
Was that really the
And
only
this,
three times? I feel like it's used all the time for them.
I'm sure we could Google it, but I only recall those three times. So it
Okay,
felt good to have someone who's not Jerry Goldsmith
yeah.
use that theme.
Well, when you said that to me, was like, did you catch the theme? And I'm like, you can't mean the Klingon theme because that's the Klingon theme. Like that that can't be the thing that you're like mentioning. So I was like listening for another cue that's like underneath of it or something, and I'm like, oh, he must just mean the Klingon theme. I'm like, yeah, I caught that, but it's like I just thought that was
I
like universally used for them because I don't know,
yeah.
maybe I'm like imprinting it onto other episodes, but I feel like that was always the theme for them, but I guess not.
We'll see. We'll do a little research after this episode, but that's what sort of gave me thrill. Not that I'm as big a fan of that as other things, but I just love it when the composer is as
Yeah.
nerdy as I am, and they're like, "Oh, Jerry, check it out, I did the thing."
And themes are important. Themes give us like
Yeah.
an emotional connection to things, and because we are so familiar as Trek fans of that theme being so closely related to Klingons, Worf being the most predominant Klingon that we're aware of, and I think I saw something at this point like he is the most frequent cast member.
Yes, he
He's
is the
had the
most.
most
He's put in
appearance.
more hours than anyone else in the history of
Riker
Trek
has
because he was
shown
on
up in
two.
more series, but he has more hours on screen as
Yeah.
not just himself, but as his grandfather as well.
Yeah. I mean, because he was on two different TV shows. Now three. This is his
Yeah,
third TV series as War. And I remember hearing something about like his skin started to like peel away because of the constant application of the Klingon makeup, and B, his voice started to change because he'd just been doing the war for so long.
yeah,
Not only doing the two TV series, being on DS9 after Next Gen, but also when his DS9 fellow cast members were on vacation during the summer, he was off making the next gen movies. So he was playing Worf constantly. Uh, you know,
yeah.
so and he might be the only guy to do that, to play a role, I guess, aside from soap operas, to play a role that constantly throughout the year.
The only one I can think of who's probably done more hours as a character would be Kelsey Grammer.
Oh no, there's definitely guys who have played. I mean, I made a list one time. Does it surprise you? I
I'm
made a
sure you
list.
did. You make so many lists that I forget which ones you made.
But yeah, I mean, in terms of, yeah, we could, that's a whole other discussion. We could redo a
Yeah.
whole episode on that. But let's,
I will say that was the turning point for me in this episode was I was completely bored up until I saw the blade come out of the guy's chest or come up through the guy's chest from the back.
the bat left, the
No, it
bat
wasn't a
left.
batleth. It's a different sword.
Oh,
I saw
okay.
a bit on this. It's actually his third variation of a um Klingon sword because he used the batleth in TNG. He had a
Hmm.
different one for DS9, and now this one they've introduced a third one. So he
Oh
seems to get
wow.
a new one for every series he's in. Apparently,
I
I
have to
don't
do
know
a
this
real quick
stuff.
aside. Yeah.
I don't know this stuff. This is stuff that I've seen other fans mention because like I like to look up these tidbits and Easter eggs when shows like this come out when they have this kind of history and
Hmm.
just see the things that they throw in there because I think it's so much fun to enjoy that kind of stuff because
Yeah.
they put so much effort into that and it's like
Yeah.
to me that's part of the fun of these series is seeing those.
Yeah. There's a lot of effort I mean, like we talked about all the Easter eggs in the first episode. We didn't even reference them all. Like in the very beginning, when they're panning across Beverly's ship, you see
Yeah,
like the pearls she wore in like some episode,
and
something
then
else. And
Jack's
this
like
episode,
footlocker and
yeah, and in this episode, there was a baseball, which we could be led to assume is Ben Sisko's
Cisco's.
baseball.
Yeah,
Yeah, so which is features in some of the, I mean, it's just that's one of my favorite moments in TV history. Just the most badass. I'm a big Cisco admirer, and that's the most badass moment in TV history when the Cardassians take Deep Space Nine and the bad guys come into Cisco's office. They've taken over the space station. The good guys have fled, and he sees the baseball just sitting on the desk. And he says, "It's a message. He's letting me know he'll be back." Yeah. But yes, I do have to do a quick joke real quick, or not a joke, but just tell a little story. On the Star Wars message boards that James and I met on, that we've known each other on for so long, there was once someone posted in the community, a news story that someone had robbed a convenience store with a batleth. And the perfect response to this, someone posted, I don't remember who it was, but someone posted, they stole everything but the condoms. So but unless you have anything more about the individual episode, I want to get into some of the predictions that we can kind of talk about.
Um, I mean, again, the this episode to me was very slow and plotting, and not much happened for a while until the very end. Like once Worf showed up, and we finally got the answer of who Raffi's handler was. Still don't
Mhm.
give a shit about her storyline, but very excited to see Worf. I love his new look, like the age sort of like distinguished
Yeah.
look of a Klingon. Like I don't remember seeing them looking that good before. Like they always look kind of like disheveled and fat and as they get older, but like he looks good, and I love his design. Love seeing him again. Um, and of course, Picard finally kind of it. First of all, him like throwing rank and saying, "No, no, we're doing this my way."
Mhm.
That was a beautiful moment. Him finally admitting he's my son, which again, not that big of a surprise, but it's nice to have A, confirmation, and B, for him to actually say it out loud.
Mhm.
I actually did enjoy the fact that Jack was trying to um, kind of give himself up to save his mother, to
Mhm.
prevent his mother from being taken, and to give the ship a chance to go. And like it's that battle of wills between the two of them. Um, and of course, there was we get the continued allusions to Wrath of Khan with the sort of standoff between them, and where like they're giving them a time to give them what they want. And in Wrath of Khan, I think it was like you've got 60 seconds or something, and she gives them an hour. But it's like they're still making those illusions, and they like fly off into the cloud for what the trailers indicate is going to be a prolonged battle in there.
Mhm.
Which again is like the entire climax to Wrath of Khan, basically.
Yeah.
Um, which will be fun and exciting to see. But the last like maybe 15 minutes of the episode was great. The beginning was just so slow and plotting. I do enjoy watching, I think her name's Amanda Plummer,
Yes.
Christopher Plummer's daughter, as the villain Vatic, I think her name is.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm bad with names. I'm
And we
trying to
we talk
remember
about
stuff.
all the throwbacks, and that her casting is a throwback. Just
Yeah, of course, because
to
Christopher
her dad.
Plummer famously played the Klingon in, was it six?
Yeah.
I get five and six mixed up, which one happens with her. Um, anyway, and she's just having all kinds of fun chewing the scenery. Like she's just this
She's just
arch character, just having a blast. And it's kind of delightful to watch her. I don't know how this is going to kind of frame out. I'm still not clear on why they're chasing him. I have
Oh
a
yeah,
feeling it
no
had
no one
something
is
to do.
this.
I have a feeling it has something to do with the first 15 minutes where, or the first like 5 minutes or so, where the raiders are coming in and inspecting his medical supplies that he's trying to take to a colony. I have a feeling something went wrong with that colony because they spent way too much time kind of lingering on that. So I have a feeling that's going to be
Hmm.
an important plot point they're going to come back to. But like
Hmm.
my problem with this is that we're still kind of unclear on so many different things, and I realize that they're trying to tease us to get us um into the story and like draw the story out. But that was my problem with the first two seasons, was that they kept drawing things out, and certain
Yeah.
storylines kind of dragged while other ones were not interesting. And they're falling into that same trap where, again, I have no interest in Raffi. Whatever she's doing, I understand it's probably going to be important. It's probably going to tie back into things, but like at the moment, it doesn't matter to me. I want to see the TNG crew, and like I said, we're only really getting Riker and Picard, and an unconscious Crusher who finally wakes up at the end is completely silent. And then Worf coming in for one scene, and it's like, where is my crew? I want to see these people come together. And you mentioned when we were having sort of a semi discussion in the um
Chat.
on this Discord. We have a chat where we talk about things all the time, coordinate behind the scenes stuff. But you had mentioned the absurdity of the like coincidence of
Yes.
Worf, and that hadn't occurred to me at the time. But like when I watched it back again, I'm like, yeah, that's kind of a bummer. Like that
Yeah, I
it's
thought
just
that they
the
were
way
all
it's
going to come together because they were called very intentionally versus the coincidence. Now I'm worried that everyone else is going to fall into place
yeah,
because of the coincidence factor. Oh, I'm here too.
yeah,
You
and
know.
it's like I understand that can kind of be a more interesting way of like bringing characters in kind of one at a time kind of thing, but it's like it kind of stretches the suspension of disbelief to a degree. And damn you for pointing it out because now I'm noticing it and now it's kind of bumming me out. So whereas before I was just
Um,
like, yeah, Worf. But yeah, those are
so
basically my thoughts on the episode. So
okay, so moving on, like the predictions. So this is some interesting stuff. During the build up to this, obviously I made a playlist of I made a list of all the trailers. I watched all the trailers and I would watch them again and again. And you know, it's like Amanda Plummer is going to be this great villain, and she's going to have this thing against not she's going to have this thing against Picard, and she has some vendetta against him, and Beverly Crusher can be heard saying, "It will be what it's always been, attempts on your life." And I'm like, how many attempts on Picard's life have there been? I don't know, but I was one, you know, yeah, exactly. And so this episode happens, and you're also kind of wondering, there's got to be some chip on Geordie's shoulder he's got against Picard.
based
And I'm
on the
watching
trailers,
this
yeah.
episode. Yeah, like he calls him Jean-Luc, and I'm like, whoa, no, no one calls him. Even the last season, they made a point of all, even your closest friends call you Captain or Admiral. Um, but right now, it's very clear they're after Jack. And I think that line where Beverly Crusher says it will be what it's always been, attempts on your life, is actually she's talking to Jack.
Yeah.
This whole season is going to be about protecting Jack. This villain is not like we thought. She's not going to be a Khan like villain where she's got some vendetta against Picard. I don't think she gives us two shits about Picard. She's there for Jack.
He's just in the way.
Yeah, she had a thought. But oh yeah, she had this line where like she's saying all these things in the trailers, like these good lines. I'll prick and I'll prod and I'll take everything. You know, she's already said all that. Now, so so a couple of thoughts on this. One is why are they after Jack, and the other thing is that why did Beverly Crusher cut off contact from everyone and keep the
Yeah.
fact that Picard had a son? I think, unlike, say, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, where it's like, oh, by the way, you have a son, and I kept him from you. All is forgiven. Let's get married. Bullshit. I think this time around, they'll actually have a good excuse, a good reason, and that reason is that she's been keeping him secret from everyone. She's been on the run with him his whole life, because I don't think it's something that just has happened recently that people are after him. I think it's something having to do with his very existence, something in his DNA, which might have to do with his being the son of Jean-Luc Picard. The only thing I can think of is something Borg related that might be in his bloodstream or something. I don't know. I'm really
Which would
perplexed on
explain the
this.
allusions to first contact and
Yeah.
the best of both worlds.
But I think that she has been trying to protect him his whole life, even and probably heartbreakingly for her, keeping him from his father. And I think that's what's going on. I'm not now convinced that Amanda Plummer is the villain of this series because, like I said, she's already said the line she says in the trailer. She's not. She doesn't have some big. And she's a bounty hunter. We found that out this episode. She is a bounty hunter. So I mean, if she's a bounty hunter, she must be hunting for someone else. Now, I could be wrong about this. In the contrary evidence column, you have the fact that she's has this giant ship, which is clearly designed to be like the big bad of the series. I don't know if they'd introduce a ship that big and badass to just kind of throw it aside and introduce another villain, but that could be part of the fake out. I just had a conversation recently with a friend about fake outs. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Deep Blue Sea with Sam Jackson. Yeah.
His death is one of the bright points, one of the few bright points of that movie where it's just out of nowhere he gives a giant speech and they're just oh and he's gone. It's like
Thanks for
what the
spoiling
fuck
for
was
it for
that?
everyone. Go YouTube it.
The movie's
Just
like
don't even
20
watch the
years
movie.
old.
just go YouTube it. Yeah, and it's the only good part of the movie. But so I that's my possible prediction is that we're gonna be introduced to a bigger bad that she's working for and has something to do with Jack's very existence, his very bloodstream, his DNA, something might be Borg related. If that's true, I might get my wish, which is that this is a Borg related season. We talked last episode about how the Borg are to Jean-Luc Picard what Lex Luthor is to Superman, what the Joker is to Batman, what Dr. Robotnik is to Sonic. I mean, that's a rivalry that deserves to have a finale.
Yeah.
And so I would love to, if that was the case. I don't know. We'll see, but that's my thought. Yeah.
And that did make me kind of reflect on the series. You mentioning that he might have some sort of like Borg connection.
Mm-hmm.
The Borg don't reproduce, so we've never seen somebody who has like Jean-Luc still well, at the time that he would have had the kid, and he's now a synthetic. Which I completely forgot about until she said that, and then someone pointed out, yeah, he got a different body in the first season. I'm like, holy Christ, he did. I completely forgot about that. But like the Borg don't have children; they assimilate, even babies and whatnot, and then implant cybernetics into them. We've never seen a situation where somebody who has Borg implants and presumably nanobots or whatever it is that exists within the Borg, presumably still existed in Picard at the time he would have had Jack. How does that work? How does that affect a human being? How does that like I'm very curious what the outcome of that might be. And even if that's not the plot, that would be an outstanding sort of plot thread to kind of take is like what happens when someone with the components of a Borg in them have a child, have a natural born child. Like, what does that
I mean,
do?
I hate to bring this up, James, but that's basically the plot of the Twilight Saga Breaking Dawn.
See, I've blocked so much of that movie out of my brain because of that stupid goddamn fake out that I'm not going to
Talk
go
about
into.
fake outs.
Oh my God. No,
Yeah.
I literally got angry watching that.
I know, no, there's a couple triggers for James. One is the dirt floor in Avatar, the Avatar movie.
Oh,
One
it makes
is
no
the fake
sense.
out. One is the fake out in Breaking Dawn. There's probably more, but his
Those are the
face
only
is
two that are
red.
coming. Those are the only two that are coming to mind. But yeah, that one pissed me off. My girlfriend actually had to calm me down at the time because she loved those movies, and I was trying to give them the benefit of the doubt for her sake. And I literally rage quit at that moment. I couldn't deal with it because that just pissed me off so much. Anyway,
I've never seen someone's face change color that much. Like,
I don't know what happened there. That was weird.
but at any rate, one last prediction I have. I think so. Picard really, I mean, as soon as he finds out this is his progeny, uh, immediately like we got to risk the entire ship to save this kid because he's my son. Again, I don't know why he's Sean Connery. Um, but I think personally that that might be the reason Jordy's pissed at him. You risked my child's life to save your child the second you found out you had one. So that's my last prediction for the night. Uh,
Yeah, now I'm intrigued, and if that's where they're going, I'm definitely going to be much more invested in this season. Because like as we've established, the Borg mean a lot to me as like that was my primary interest in Next Gen. I had the VHS box set of the 4 episodes of Next Gen of Borg, Q Who, the two best of both worlds, and I Borg. It didn't have the later two with the
yeah,
ones
the
that
descent,
yeah, it didn't have
which
that
is
double
funny because
part,
they
but it
suck.
was I mean they're continuation of Hugh's story, but those 4 like I think I've watched those episodes more than the rest of TNG combined. Because they meant so much to me. I've been
And I
fascinated
know
by
how
the
much you love
Borg.
First Contact. It's not just your favorite Star
Oh,
Trek movie; it's your favorite Star Trek.
yeah, basically, yes. It is such an outstanding movie. in my opinion. I think it's better than Wrath of Khan, which I know I will get hate for, but um, that, that's where I stand on it. So I will definitely be invested if that's the case. And it does definitely, first of all, I was complaining last episode about the lack of kind of closure on the whole Girardi situation now that she's the Borg Queen. Sort of, I don't know where that's kind of going. And if she's not the antagonist that's looking for him, then I don't know who else would be, but I mean, there would be lots of people who might be looking for him because the technological um, possibilities of having Borg tech is, you know, something that a lot of people would kill for.
Mhm.
I think that would be a fascinating journey. There are a couple more things from the trailers that I'm intrigued by, and I want to see what they're coming up to. And I've heard a few different things. First is again, I mentioned Moriarty. I don't understand why they're going back to like great, great character from the series. Great little bit. Every time he showed up, it was just a delight to watch him. Outstanding actor playing him, whose name escapes me at the moment. But
Daniel Davis.
I don't understand why they would bring him back at this point.
Right.
And one of the things that they're kind of talking about is that they're going to get into a situation. I've heard people mention is that like they're going to get into a situation where they need someone to be able to outlogic their enemy.
Hmm.
And the only person who could do that now that Data is dead, Spock is dead, would be Moriarty. And he's just sitting in a cube somewhere out there, and they're going to bring him out to kind of work with them. I don't think that'll work out in their favor. I don't know if that's where they're going with this, but I don't understand why you would bring him back at this point. It's a cool get because like it's a fun little throwback to the series, just like seeing Q last season was a great little throwback because the only other opponent I think who has even more of a vendetta against or has more of a relationship with Picard than the Borg would be Q. And
Uh-huh.
their like back and forth was one of the highlights of the entire series. Every time Q showed up, it was, you know, an outstanding episode. Um, the other one that I'm kind of intrigued by is lore and what they're
Hmm.
doing with lore. The simple answer is they're trying to bring Brent Spiner back to be part of the crew, and they're doing the entire crew bring back. That is the simple answer. But plot wise, why is he coming back? And someone pointed out that his emotion chip, they took it out of him and gave it to Data and implanted it into Data, and Data's destroyed. He's gone. So that chip is gone too. So I'm wondering what like Lore seems to be evoking some sort of emotion in this. He looks very angry in every shot I've seen him in. Um,
Yeah, he's always got emotions though. That was I just rewatched all the lore episodes in preparation for this, and it's totally stupid. Like he comes like, I'm lore. Hey, I'm funny. I'm
yeah,
angry. And then he's like, I want that emotion chip, you son of a bitch. Why?
yeah. So I'm not sure where that aspect is going. Um, but I'm wondering there is a moment in I think it's the Super Bowl trailer. I've only seen clips of it. I haven't seen the entire trailer because I wanted to actually enjoy the series and not just be spoiled for every plot point. But there is a moment where he's looking at the glass and Jordy's on the other side of the glass and he yells something at Laura. I don't remember what the line is.
He just goes, lore.
Yeah, but I'm wondering if Jordy is trying to implant Data's personality and memory into Laura
I don't
to
think that's
bring
the case
Data back
because the
for a
season
reason.
season one was gave a really hardcore goodbye to Data.
And
Like
I
season one,
appreciate
like
that, but like, why would you bring back Lore? Like,
yeah.
Lore has screwed you on every possible occasion. He's not someone to like. It seems foolhardy for them to bring him back unless he's going to be an enemy. And it's like we've got so many goddamn enemies in this season that we have no idea who the actual enemy is, and like bringing back another one just seems kind of superfluous to me. He needs to have some sort of plot necessity. They're
Well,
bringing him
I
back
don't know
for a
who.
purpose.
Well, the big question for me is who the hell turned him back on?
Yeah.
But also,
Well, that's what I'm thinking.
and
I'm thinking Jordy turned him back on.
I think he might be the villain. I think he might because we talk about Descent, the two-parter episode Descent. That was him trying to use the Borg to basically take over the Federation. Who would be better than to try and be after Jack because he's got Borg DNA, so to
Yeah.
speak, than Lore. So he might be the patron of Vatic. Um, It's entirely possible. I still don't know who the hell turned him back on or where he's like, yeah, where he was stored.
Yeah.
Up until now, I'm sure
Wasn't
we'll
he
get all
stored
the
at the
answers.
Daystrom
No,
Institute?
that
Like,
was
wasn't.
before. That was the
No, I know
bullshit other
before was
lore.
there. I know that whole thing was there. And that was part of their whole thing. But I thought lore was also, they indicated that they also had possession of lore.
Hmm. I don't know why
I
they
don't.
wouldn't have shown that if they hadn't like here's before and here's lore. We have them in two separate drawers. Like I don't know, but I'm still excited for this season. I think it's oh God, I'm so excited for this season. So
I am too. I just
yeah,
need more. I need more of a hook. And like the hook has always been this is next
yeah,
generation. The next generation crew is coming back. But as I said, it's been the Riker and Picard show the entire
so
time with
yeah,
cameos of other people. It's like if you're bringing the cast back, bring the cast back. Seven of Nine has had more screen time than the rest of the crew combined.
yeah,
Shaw has had more screen time than the rest of the crew combined. The villain has had more screen time than the rest of the crew combined. It's like if you're bringing the crew back, bring the crew back. Let me see
yeah.
the crew. Don't like
Well,
string it out. That
that's
was the
another
problem
thing.
with the first two seasons is you just strung everything out, and
Yeah,
then it was only exciting for like the last two episodes, maybe, and then the conclusions weren't terribly satisfying. And
yeah.
I'm afraid they're doing that again. And it's like,
But that is another thing that this show does not have next time on Star Trek Picard. I would kill for that. I would like,
yeah.
why aren't they doing that? Like they've never had that on this show, as far as I know.
Well,
Next
that's
time it
that's
should
that's
be.
sort of a thing they've dropped as
Yeah,
a TV sort of trope. They'll do the refresher at the beginning of the episode
yeah,
for these ongoing seasons, but they never do that next time on.
yeah.
I
And
say
we
that,
should.
but the
I
series
would
I'm
love.
working on is doing just that.
Yeah, but it's like that would maybe calm some of your anxieties. That would be like
Yeah,
like yeah, like the next time. Guess what? Next time, Jordy. Like, but
but
we
if it's
we, we
only
don't
going to
have
be
to.
like one person per episode, it's only like a 10 episode season. Give me more people. Like if we're into the third episode before we meet the crew, maybe even the fourth episode, it's like that's the series almost half done.
That's still 5 episodes. That's still longer than a movie. With these
But like
characters.
they're not throwing this out as a movie; they're throwing it out as a series. And when half of the series of this next generation season is missing the next generation,
Hmm.
I don't know. I want to see the crew. I want to see the crew brought together, and I want to know who the villain is. And you can still do a season of like all kinds of story arcs involving all of this, but like get to the goddamn point, George Lucas.
The other thing is that I forgot to mention is the other big not a prediction, but like when are we going to see it is the Enterprise F. We saw the Enterprise F in the trailer.
It's only over the
And
same shot though, and it's like, is it just going to be a cameo passing by camera,
I
or are
hope
we
not.
actually going to see it?
I think Geordi might be the captain of the Enterprise F, and I think that
I thought he was responsible
oh
for
fuck yeah, he's
the art the
he's
museum or
the art
something.
exhibit. Damn it, dude! Like, thanks for ruining that for me.
No, because that was my thought too. Was like they're going to get into a dogfight in this cloud with a ship that's very clearly outclassing them. And someone's going to
Mhm.
have to come in and save them.
Yeah,
My thought would be Geordi because of his daughter connection and whatnot. Um,
but it's
but
it's
what
being
ship is he
decommissioned.
going
We
to
know
come in
that.
on? Yeah, I know it's going to be
It's being
decommissioned.
decommissioned, so that might be the reason he's like, I'm taking over the Enterprise F
Yeah.
to go. And
Well, that
like
was
that's
my thought
exact. And
about. That's a great throwback to
yeah,
Star
the
Trek
show.
3 is when they steal the Enterprise, the crew of the
Yeah,
Enterprise steal the decommissioned Enterprise, and it's like
but that would
that'd
be
be a
a
great throwback.
even if he doesn't steal it, that would be a great throwback since this whole season's about throwbacks, even to something as random as generations. Uh,
I still love
it would
that
be a great.
movie.
There would be a great throwback to Star Trek One, the motion picture
Yeah,
of Kirk coming on the Enterprise and be like, I'm taking command because we got to go do this thing. Jordy being like, I'm taking the Enterprise F to go save my daughter. And but I would love it if the whole crew ended up. How amazing would it be if we not only got the whole crew back minus
but
Data,
on the Enterprise.
but on the fucking
Yeah.
Enterprise F, and they had this mission, and yeah, that'd be amazing.
Well, you mentioned Star Trek One. One of my absolute favorite. I love audio design. I love like sound and the reuse of sounds. Two
Mhm.
of my favorites, obviously, being the lightsaber, which you hear everyone uses elements of the lightsaber because there's so many aspects of the lightsaber. Another one is the proton pack because there's so many different aspects of that every time I hear it in a movie, it's like, oh, I was a part of the proton pack. Oh, that's the neutrino wand. Oh, that's the cyclotron. And it's like I know these aspects of it because I know it, or like, oh, that's the sound of a lightsaber, like the scratching against each other kind of sound.
Mhm.
One of the ones that in this one was when they start to go into the maelstrom, into the big ion cloud or whatever it
Mhm.
is. Um, there's a very specific string hit, and it's this instrument that they used in
Is
um,
it the V'ger?
yeah, it's the V'ger sound effect, but they've also
Wow.
reused it a couple other times. And throwing back to Star Wars, it's also the basis of the sound effect for the sonic bombs from the Slave One when it drops
Yeah.
and does the like the absolute hollow noise and then the
Yeah.
kind of sound. It's the same instrument that they use, and it's like this 12-foot long device of
Mhm.
strings, and they put this like metal cylinder on it for like whatever pitch they want it to be, and then they strike this thing and it like vibrates and whatnot. But because they're such long strings, it's like this deep guttural, like very like visceral sound. And like every time they use it, like that sound, I don't remember much from Star Trek One because I fall asleep every time, but that sound stays with you. And that
The
sound stayed with
slow
me. When
motion
I heard it in
picture
this one, I got tingles, and it's like, oh, that's good. I like that.
might be. I guess I didn't notice that for you. The sound thing might be like the score, the theme, musical theme thing is
It's
for me. Like
certain sounds. I don't pick up on everything, but there's some things that like just stay with you. And um, that one has always been kind of again, that movie's utterly forgettable and just terrible
the
from
slow
beginning to
motion
end. But
picture. Yeah.
basically, but that sound effect was just so every time they would cut to the cloud, just this kind of.
Mhm.
I'm not doing it justice, but it's an outstanding sound.
You always put that as your ringtone. Bow. James, just James making that sound. Uh, but yeah. Overall consensus, not a super eventful episode, but it gave us some stuff to think about what's coming.
Yeah.
And I want my Borg. Give me my Borg. So yeah. Any last thoughts?
I trying to think of. I had a list. Rafi plot is boring. Yada yada yada. Picard Riker. Cold Crusher. Oh, Riker desperate. Riker as desperate to know as Ryan. Shaw is still a prick. Those are my final thoughts.
Okay. All
So
right. Well, that'll
we'll
do
end
us.
on
That'll do
that.
us. Yeah, that'll do us for today, folks. What did you think of Star Trek Picard 3.2? Leave your comments in the section below. And as always, be sure to like, share, subscribe. And I'm Ryan Murphy,
And I'm James Sheridan
and thank you for keeping it real.
with ReelTime. Good night. Engage.